Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to a special homegrown edition of Grammar Lessons. Today's lesson is Grammar Lesson G. We're going to be talking about dependent clauses and complex sentences. Let's go ahead and get started. So first off, we need to talk about dependent clauses. A dependent clause has a subject and verb, but it cannot stand alone. Remember last lesson, Grammar Lesson F, we talked about independent clauses and compound sentences, right? Independent clauses can stand alone. A dependent clause cannot stand alone. It's called dependent because it depends on an independent clause to give it meaning. All right, it depends on an independent clause to give it meaning. Now, a dependent clause can act as a noun, an adjective, or even an adverb in a sentence, but again, it's always dependent on an independent clause. All right? So a complex sentence is one or more dependent clauses. It's when one or more dependent clauses lean on an independent clause. Right? So a dependent clause needs an independent clause. When we attach this dependent clause to that independent clause, it becomes a complex sentence. Let's take a look at some of these examples. I'll go ahead and pause for a second so that you can look over these. You can pause your screen, look over these few sentences, and we will resume here in just a second. Welcome back. Alright, now what you need to do is you need to identify the subjects and predicates in these following sentences. So, number one, when he turned in his paper, he forgot to give his teacher the last page. If you're starting to pick up on subjects and predicates, you see some patterns here, right? We have the same subject for this sentence, he and he, but different predicates, turned in his paper and forgot to give his teacher the last page. Right. Then we've got this word out here that's neither part of the subject or the predicate, right? We'll talk about that word here in just a second. Number two, resubmit your homework after you correct your mistakes. This is one of those that has a what? Yeah, an understood subject, you. You resubmit your homework after you correct your mistakes. So, you, in both cases, is the subject, resubmit your homework is the predicate, and correct your mistakes is also the predicate. Got it? Number three, the student revised her work because she wanted to better understand analysis. Two different subjects this time. The student, yes, and she. Now, she is the pronoun that replaces the student, so we call the student the antecedent. Good, you're catching on now. So the student, the subject, revised her work, that's the predicate, because she, again the subject, wanted to better understand analysis, the predicate. Now, what part of speech do you notice in each example? What part of speech is present? Yeah, subordinating conjunctions. When, after, and because. On this first page here, we gave you a list, if you're picking up on that, of subordinating conjunctions. Now, we've got to be able to recognize subordinating conjunctions in our grammar lessons, in our sentences, and if you're doing no red ink, you'll be asked questions specifically like this, right? So subordinating conjunctions always join two complete thoughts into one sentence. So John missed the bus because he overslept. Right? John missed the bus because he overslept. So here is our subordinating conjunctions. They like to call them SWABIes because the S, W, A, B, I, these are probably the most common form of subordinating conjunctions: since, when, after, because, and if. Right? Now, important thing to know about these subordinating conjunctions is that they can be found at the beginning or the middle of a sentence. So Gloria jumped up and down on the bed after she ate 10 sugar cubes. If I get good grades, my uncle will buy me a bike. And when the rain stops, we can go play handball in the park. Now, you can have, as I just said, you can have front subordinating conjunctions or middle subordinating conjunctions. The way No Red Ink likes to explain it is that it still combines two independent clauses. I wouldn't explain it like that. I would say this was our dependent clause. So because Dave likes banana, there's our dependent clause. It contains a subordinating conjunction. But remember, a dependent clause always leans on an independent clause, right? He eats them as often as he can. Because Dave likes bananas, he eats them as often as he can. Notice here, whenever we put a subordinating conjunction in front, right, so our first clause is a dependent clause, because Dave likes bananas. Whenever we do that, we must have a comma after that clause. Because Dave likes bananas, comma, he eats them as often as he can. Here's a common list, or a list of common subordinating conjunctions, more than just the SWABI, right? Here's a bigger list that may be useful for you. Let's take a look at an example of a middle subordinating conjunction. Okay, so this is exactly the same sentence, right? Or very similar sentence as the front one, but in the middle one we switch it up a little bit. It says Dave eats bananas as often as he can because he likes them. Notice that this is still our dependent clause when we put this together. Because he likes them, it's still our dependent. It depends on this independent clause. Dave eats bananas as often as he can. But notice we do not have a comma after the independent clause, right? We don't add a comma when the subordinating conjunction comes in the middle of the sentence. So Dave eats bananas as often as he can because he likes them, right? No comma there. Now if we switch this up again and said, because he likes them, comma, Dave eats bananas as often as he can. If this came at the beginning of the sentence, it was a front subordinating conjunction, we would require a comma after the dependent clause. Alright? So you may be asked to do something like this tomorrow in class. You may be asked to write two sentences about a movie you like. One simple sentence, one complex sentence. Reread your sentence and circle every subject and underline every predicate. Now guys, I really hope you are staying with us in these grammar lessons. Next grammar lesson H, we're going to have some special guest on the program, and there may be even a chance for an extra credit point or two. So make sure you're tuning in and you're paying attention. Alright? Sound good? Alright, see you soon.